Get started. I hope you're able to see my deck. Welcome everyone to this meetup. I would say this is the last virtual meetup we are having for this year, and we want to introduce you to the top features of 2024. Automation Anywhere, as a company, we have launched a lot of interesting features this year, and we want to give you a recap of the top features, what we have released, and how this can benefit. Even to get this smaller list, we had a long list, and then we had to really cut through some of them so that we could give you the best of the best in this year. And I have a lot of our expert product managers who have joined us to deliver their specific topics which they have worked on. Like we have Jason, we have Mudit, we have Nishikant, and Vineet as well. So myself, I am Arjun Esmeda, Director for Community and Learning. I'll be the host for this session, and let's get started. And before, I kind of move to this slide, couple of housekeeping rules. So this webinar is recorded and we will share this after the event. We're going to upload this onto the YouTube and we will share this link. All the attendees are muted. So if you have any questions, please type it in the Q&A section. If you have any issues related to the audio or video, only that please put it in the chat window. And safe harbor, like most of the slides and the topics which we are going to cover is already generally available for everyone. However, our product managers have kindly accepted to share some of the fine prints which are coming up in the next set of releases. So that's why in case if you are making any purchase decisions, please make sure you go through the documentation and also you talk to the account executives before making any of those, because some of them are forward-looking statements in this here. So to come to the agenda, we're going to cover these top 5 features of 2024. The first one is AI Agent Studio. Here we have infused AI into a lot of our product lines. And some of the features, you're going to see this in this demo. And the key ones are like AI Agent Studio. We also have GenAI infused in document automation. You can use natural language prompts with Automator AI. And we also have API tasks now coming up, which is already there live, and also a connector builder, which helps you build a lot of custom connectors. And once we cover all this, we'll also talk about our upcoming event, that is the Pathfinder Summit, which we have in the month of January. And we'll also have Q&A at the end. However, after each topic, if there are any questions, we would like to read out a couple of questions and get them answered from our product managers. However, if there are more questions, then we can just take up in a couple of minutes. Our product managers will help us in answering them in the chat window. Okay, to start with, okay, there's something interesting happening as well. Like if you stay with us till the end of this session, you will be entered to win one of these 3 cool swag packs, and we'll notify the winners through email. If you want to know about the rules, so here is the link. If any of you want to read more about it, we are happy to share you the link, and you can also scan this QR code to know more about this. And before I just begin the session, I want to launch a poll to understand how many of you are actually comfortable with these topics we just spoke about. If you could just take 30 seconds to answer, which of these features do you use often and which features would you like to learn more about? Okay, we can see answers trickling in. Thank you for that. It'll take 30 more seconds for everybody to answer. We have close to half of us answered. Rest of you, if you could just select which one, if you have used already, and which one you want to learn more, that will help us create more content around those topics as well. Okay, a couple of more folks, if you could just answer these 2 questions, and then we can end the poll and also share the results. Okay, thank you for answering. I hope you're able to see the results. So a lot of our developers have used document automation with GenAI and also API tasks. And a lot of developers want to understand how to use AI Agent Studio and also like equally important for the other topics as well. So thank you for this information. Now let's get started. I would like to request Jason Trent, he's the Director for Product Management, to introduce himself and also to take us through the AI Agent Studio. What is it all about and how can we make use of this cool feature?
Thanks very much, Arjun. Really appreciate it. I'll go ahead and share from my end, and let me go ahead and kick off the sharing real quick. As Arjun mentioned, my name is Jason Trent. I'm on the product team here at Automation Anywhere, and I look after our AI Agent Studio offering. I'm really excited to be here with you all today, and I'm really excited to see lots of positive support and excitement around AI Agent Studio. I'm hopeful that over the next 10 minutes or so, I can start to answer some of your questions. As Arjun mentioned, please, if I can't get to them during the presentation, please put them in the Q&A. I'll make sure to answer them as some of my other colleagues are going. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, AI agents are really, we think, the next evolution around this world that we're all moving to, which is agentic process automation. Agents make it possible for us to go and unlock really, up to probably about 80 to 90% of possible automation tasks within an organization through the infusion of generative AI. And we've seen a massive growth within our customer base over the last 12 to 18 months as customers have started to utilize generative AI in really new and exciting ways. And what you'll learn today is we've taken generative AI and we've really infused it across every single product within the stack. I think everything you're going to see today has some slant or capability that's really been enhanced or supercharged by the inclusion of generative AI. Now, we know that there's a lot of different agent capabilities in the marketplace, and you're probably hearing about this from all kinds of different vendors. We think that Automation Anywhere delivers a really unique value to our customers, like yourselves, because we focus on enterprise process agents. We're going to unpack that and talk a little bit more about what that means here in a second. While many vendors are focusing on personal productivity or departmental focus, Automation Anywhere utilizes our investment in generative AI, process orchestration capabilities, the ability to integrate into pretty much any enterprise system that exists to really deliver true transformational value that we think is unique within the marketplace. Now, as we're talking about agents, I thought it would be helpful to also unpack and ground and explain what we mean whenever we talk about an AI agent. First, as I mentioned, AI Agent Studio is a portion of the larger automation enterprise system. Really at the core of that is our traditional RPA, API task process orchestration capability. As I mentioned earlier, we've infused generative AI across our AI system. And what you're going to hear a lot from the other speakers today is how they're able to take advantage of our compound AI system through 300 million plus transactions that we've learned on within our public cloud. On top of all of this is a set of solutions that we're starting to build and go to market with. These are essentially ways to get started quickly, and they're targeted at either very common horizontal use cases or vertical focuses. The first one we shipped earlier this year was around service ops, and we've continued to deliver others in finance, HR, IT, and you can get access to those via the bot store, as well as our partnership with certain hyperscalers. Now, as we jump into what an AI agent means, we believe it's actually the composition of two parts. The first is what we call an AI skill, and that's a brand new asset that you can develop within the control room. We'll actually take you through an example of what that looks like here in a second. And it combines the power of large language models. We offer access to all the leading models on all the hyperscalers, so Amazon Bedrock, GCP, Azure OpenAI, OpenAI, and also allow you to go and bring your own models as well. If you're at a customer that's working on building their own models, or maybe you want to take advantage of an open source model, you can also utilize that with an AI Agent Studio. We know that oftentimes the thing that challenges customers with going wide with generative AI is the fact that they have challenges and they have concerns around trusting the outcomes of these models. And so we've also made it possible to ground your models in what's called retrieval augmented generation or RAG approaches. This is essentially you providing additional information in the form of images, documents, and other pieces of data that are relevant to your enterprise to improve the accuracy or the efficacy of the responses you get from models. And then lastly, we give you tooling that allows you to go and and fine tune that prompt that you're writing for your particular outcome. Now, if we just did that alone, that would be providing some value, but we actually think the true value that gets unlocked with generative AI is whenever you combine that with action. And we're an action platform. We've got a fantastic process orchestration capability. You already know that we can go and automate, various different types of UI and API tasks. And we've got the ability to go and bring humans in the loop whenever it's incredibly necessary. The power of an AI skill plus an action to us means an agent. And these agents are controlled, but also deployed securely and responsibly across your organization through a rich layer of security and governance. We believe that Automation 360 is really the platform choice for enterprise agentic process automation. We allow you to orchestrate your business processes. You can rapidly go build agents within your environments, and we make it easy to maintain compliance and control. So with that, I wanted to jump into a demonstration today, and I really want to give you guys as much of a hands-on experience of what it's like to go and build and maintain these agents. So you'll see that I'm in the control room. And if you haven't seen this in a recent update, we actually added a new section into the control room called AI. Within that, we've got the ability to go and access what are called model connections, as well as our governance layer. And those are key components of AI Agent Studio. We're going to be bringing additional new visual elements into this section in the control room in the next several releases. We're actually going to make it easier for you to go and access AI skills that you're building, as well as get easy access to some of the new templates we're shipping. And then in the future, we'll also be servicing up AI agents there directly. So let's start with how you actually get going with building an AI agent. And that begins in what's called a model connection. So this is our model connection screen. As you'll note, it's embedded directly within the control room. And this governs your access and control to certain models that you can publish for use across your organization. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we know that there isn't a single model that really is best at all outcomes. And so we wanted to make it possible for customers to go and have a wide variety of access. These are all models that you're going to go and connect to. It's a BYOL or bring your own license approach, meaning that you actually provide your authentication credentials and we're accessing the models on your behalf that exists within your VPC or private cloud. We have access, as I mentioned earlier, the ability to go and connect you to all the leading models on all the hyperscalers. If you are working on your own model, or you want to go take advantage of maybe models that are deployed behind a firewall or in an open source cloud, we make it possible for you to do that as well. Now, once you go and establish this model connection, you can actually then go and share that with different members of the team or the organization or departments across your enterprise. This is really where the first layer of governance comes in, and it allows you to be ensured that only the right people, the right teams, the right groups are getting access to particular model connections at any given point in time. Once you've established that model connection, the next step is to actually go and build what's called that AI skill. Now remember, an AI skill is a combination of a model plus some optional enterprise grounding of data, and then your tuned prompt. Now, many of you may be familiar with prompt engineering and those capabilities, and this has largely become available in a lot of the different hyperscaler tooling on Azure and Amazon Bedrock and GCP and others. But we feel like really the big differentiator for automation anywhere is that we're bringing the same types of outcomes that those hyperscalers provide, but we're bringing it into the tooling you already use today, embedded directly within the control room. And one of the big differences is that we actually allow you to connect to any model. So as I mentioned earlier, all of those models that you establish and you share via model connections, you can see I have access to utilize all of those right here. That gives me the ability to go and write a prompt one time and then seamlessly test it against different models to evaluate which one is really the best fit for purpose. Now, in this particular case, you may notice I'm picking a grounded model. That means this is a model that's been enriched with enterprise data. I mentioned our ability to go and integrate into these different RAG providers. So today we support RAG options from Amazon Bedrock and Google Cloud. And then if you're aware, we also have our own native retrieval augmented generation or RAG offering called Enterprise Knowledge. All of these allow you to go and upload content where the vectorization and the understanding of the document is done automatically for you. And then you can simply pull that or refer to that within the context of an AI skill. So I've selected my model. In this particular case, I'm actually asking the model to utilize some information it has within its RAG offering to go and generate an auto loan recommendation for me. And what really ties this into automation is this concept around prompt inputs here on the right. So you may notice it in the bottom of the prompt, we've got two prompt inputs or variables that are embedded. Our annual income amount, that's going to be the amount that the borrower earns, and then the amount they're requesting from a loan perspective. And as I go and fire off this prompt, essentially what the AI skill is going to do is it's going to combine that test data. It's going to go and formulate and generate the prompt, and it's going to send that over to the model. Along the way, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to utilize retrieval augmented generation to ground that. And what comes back is this JSON payload. Now, you may notice that in the skill, we told it to write it out as JSON. The reason we did that is because in this particular instance, it's a lot easier to share JSON from agent to agent and skill to skill. And so we asked it for it to go and do that in that particular instance. You can see what came back was a number of different term options based upon length and rate and payment amount. And then at the bottom, we have a risk score. We also provide the ability to go and access, where in the various different documents was this information pulled from in a capability called citations. So that's a real quick overview of how we go and connect to a model and then build a skill on that. Pardon me, we can use these skills in traditional task spots and in API tasks, and those obviously can be serviced up within processes as you start to go and build out your agentic process automation capabilities on top of A360. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today before I hand it over to another colleague to talk about document automation is how we go and govern all of the investments that you're making within AI Agent Studio. And we do that through a couple different ways. First, we shipped a whole brand new set of dashboards within ACC. So now you'll see an AI governance tab at the top. You can see things like the most used models. You can see model utilization counts. You can see even token consumption. So we do track the tokens that are sent over and the tokens that come back. And then, of course, all of this data is stored within our governance logs. So if I open up this particular one, you'll notice this is our governance section. All the interactions across all of the generative AI models are stored here. And you can actually dive in to get very specific granular details around, in this particular case, what prompt was sent over, what the response looked like, as well as additional details here at the bottom that allow you to go and really understand all of these interactions. Now, like the rest of the governance data that's stored within A360, this can obviously all be exported into your SIM platform, be it Datadog or Splunk or others, give you the ability to go and really aggregate this data and review it at a higher level and socialize that with other members of the team. So with that, that was a quick run through of AI Agent Studio. I really encourage you to check out the AI Agent Studio within our documentation. And if you have any questions, please put those in the chat. I'm going to go and hand it over to Mudit, who's going to share with you more details about document automation. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jason. Yeah, hey, I'll quickly share my screen. Get started. Jason, I think you got to stop sharing.
Yeah, I'm looking for the stop share. There it is. Thanks, Mudit.
Nice. All right. Oh, we'll go screen here. Right. So, team, I'm super excited to be here. I'm principal product manager for document automation, and I'll take you through how document automation works in context of extracting data for different capabilities that we have, and especially I'll focus, of course, primarily on the new generative AI capabilities that we've now added into the product and are really slated for release as part of our .35, right? So let me deep dive into this quickly. So in case you don't know, just to quickly summarize what document automation is all about. Of course, we primarily focus on extraction of data from documents, and how we go about doing this is really by using our automation success platform right from the point in time, when you need to sort of read and ingest documents into document automation for extraction. The source could be anything. It could be an email, it could be a SharePoint location, SFTP location, whatever, right? So we've got a bunch of capabilities to ingest it from multiple sources. Within document automation, of course, we have capabilities embedded which allow us to process these documents and enhance them because, first we convert them into images, we enhance them so that they're most optimum for extraction. They're ready, really. And then we typically also have native capabilities to classify these documents and split them into different sections if there is a need to do that, right? I may be looking to extract information from specific pages. So all of that is something that we can easily do with our native capabilities. And of course, then the core of our product, which is really data extraction and validation of the extracted data, right? Using an easy to use human in the loop, leveraging our Copilot capability that's there. So as part of this, data extraction, of course, is the core. And as you would imagine, that's where we've now embedded generative AI. So we have a lot of capability that comes powered by Automation Anywhere models, pre-built and available for you to use without any training practically. And you can, of course, augment them with generative AI to practically extract all kinds of documents, structured, semi-structured, unstructured, you name it, right? Everything's on the table, and you can really address all of them using that native capability. And then we have, of course, third-party parsers as well. We have partnerships with Google and Microsoft to use integrated, just a sec. Sorry about that. So I do have some third-party, we do have some third-party parsers like Google, Microsoft, which also allow us to really use their technology for extraction. Again, very relevant if you're using, for example, if you're ready to spend some time to train, it's something that can come in very handy. And then we have an open architecture which allows you to really bring in your own parsers if you want to power your extraction as well. So that's all of it is available in our single document automation platform. Once the extraction is done, of course, it flows to your system of record or your system of work, as the case may be, and you can really use it thereof. With that, I will move to the meat of our capability on generative AI. So again, if you've used the product today, prior to .35, right, this is really the picture that you'll have from a use case perspective, how generative AI gets used today in .34 really, and is that we really use in a big way for unstructured documents. All the unstructured documents primarily rely on generative AI, large language models for extraction. You can specify your search queries and complete the extraction thereof. And then, of course, for semi-structured and structured documents, generative AI plays a role where we primarily use it for an augmentation, as we call it, an augmentation mode. So the primary extraction use happens through our models, and then wherever we find there are gaps or a better option or a better extraction available from generative AI, we have capabilities to sort of fill in that gap, right? And of course, our extraction models can learn from the feedback that you give. If you also want to use feedback to play a role, that's also on the table, and that really works well, especially for semi-structured and structured documents, like invoices, like purchase orders, and so to speak, right? So this is where we are today, and now with .35, we are rolling out the vision capabilities, especially GPT-4o is now integrated uh, with document automation. Now, what that really does for us is we can use multimodality, really. We can use not just the textual information with generative AI, we can also use the image itself and transfer that to the model to give a even better level of extraction, right? And that's starting to show up in some of the use cases that we are able to solve for. We have tested this and we've tried this out, and many interesting use cases. For example, we can extract using complex tables, so nested tables, things like link tables. Again, I'll show some examples of that, and things like graphical objects, right? So you can practically just send a graph of a particular data set and ask the model to do an extraction, right? Things like signature verification, barcode, all of it is really possible because we now have this multimodality available and really be using the vision capabilities now. In general, which as the large language models are progressing, of course, the higher context window and it does tend to have an impact in terms of the accuracy you can expect as well. And that's really the big ticket investment that you see, that's there on the table. And the other thing also to call out here is that, with reference to graphical and infographic objects, I think a big use case would be on unstructured documents. So things like analyst reports, right? Things like if you've got a graphical object embedded in a research report, right? And you want to really extract data out of it. So again, all of that becomes in the realm of possibility and can be addressed here. I'll just spend a minute on this and I'll move forward. It's important to understand what we do behind the scenes to really appreciate, because I've heard the typical question would be, we can also use this in general from the hyperscalers. Like large language models are, of course, available and you can really subscribe to them and use them directly. But here's the thing, right? So any large language model, especially with vision capabilities now, if you give it the context, it gives you the best response, right? So our entire flow really, if I may highlight this here, just point it out here. So if you think about it, the biggest heavy lifting that our models do in terms of document analysis is we understand what the tables are, what are the different types of tables. We understand what are the different layouts, within the different layouts, what are the different sections, and we really provide that information when we send that to for extraction, to the vision models, and the accuracy and the results we typically get basis of that context is far superior than what you would normally get, right? So again, this is the core of what we do, and of course, in terms of our extraction instructions that we have now coupled with generative AI providers, we've optimized that specifically for extraction of documents. So you really don't have to do any sort of fine tuning. All you need to say is what you want to extract, and it just does the extraction for you, right? So again, optimization of this generative AI extraction does play a role and is also something that's tremendously relevant. So I know it's a bit complex, but I just wanted to highlight this piece, and because this question comes up often, so I just want to make sure that's clearly understood as well. Now let me get into the use cases. I think that's where it gets interesting. So what I've done in the interest of time is that I've put processed some of the documents. I've taken screenshots and I've loaded them here so we can go to the product and I can show you there as well. But just to quickly explain what are the different type of use cases and what really document automation is able to address now with vision capabilities. So this is an example of a barcode and a QR code. And you can see, I mean, I just simply asked it, what's the barcode? I think it was able to extract the actual, in this case, it so happens that this is available here as well, but I'm sure even if that was not the case, it's able to extract the information that barcode represents. The QR code, of course, I simply asked what is the QR code, whether it was detecting it or not, and it was able to do that as well. Likewise, when you look at the signature object, all of these are signatures which are available. And I mean, of course, I wanted to know for respective parties, right? I mean, consignor, whether they've signed it, carrier, whether they signed it, and likewise, whether consignee, whether they signed it or not, right? And you can see that detection happened fairly accurately, including the date spot. Right? So this is again something that would be possible post .35, and you can really play with these capabilities and try this out as well. Now, going further, right, so complex table extraction, again, there are many different examples of it, and this is just really one example, what we call as a nested table example, right? Again, sort of a sample here that I used to extract data. So you can see there is a table within a table. And what we really want to do is we want to take, all of this data and load it up in singular row, right? So school maps to these two rows, and this XYZ school maps to these three rows, and that's what really we're trying to do here. Again, it's something that vision models are able to handle absolutely seamlessly, and you really don't have to worry about it. Just gets, you know, gets productive and redeployed as soon as you execute the extraction, right? And then again, this is another example. Let's say you have multiple repeatable sections of documents where, let's say, I want to use this particular member ID to sort of aggregate information across documents, right? So I have, let's say, a 15-page document, and this information for this member ID comes for page 1, page 7, and page 15. All I need to do is I need to specify that this member ID is the linking field, and then the system automatically will be able to go ahead and complete the extraction basis of this single prompt, right? Again, a very, very powerful capability that helps you address data extraction from complex tables. Uh, with that, and yeah, this is of course the big one and sort of I guess the most wow here really. But if you think about it, vision models can really understand graphical objects. I mean, that's not outside the realm of possibility. And now what we've got here is a couple of financial sort of reports that I pulled out, just samples here, and you can see it is able to convert this, right? So if you see here, I kind of just pointed it, okay, I'm looking for this category. I'm looking for this, category percentage and return metric. I didn't even specify, anything. I mean, if you see, there is nothing called category here. There is nothing called category return percentage, right? There is nothing called return metric, right? If and I was able to sort of get this extraction. And I, of course, if you give some more examples, like I think when I first tried this out, return metric wasn't giving me the best uh, example. So I had to give some examples of that. Like this is supposed to be 1 year threshold, 1 year absolute, or 3 year absolute, and so on, right? So my apologies. I think I've sort of messed up the screenshots. These are these are related ones. So the one which you see below is really related to this one table, and this one's related to this one. Apologies for that. I messed that up. So yeah, so if you can see here, again, same thing, right? So I had to specify what some examples, and then I started getting pretty good results. But yeah, I mean, any graphical object, any graphical element really is something that you can look at to convert into data, right? And that's pretty powerful as well. Just quickly, I think this is something that is not in .35. We just wanted to lay it out. We're also working on something called Document Workspace, a test mode which will allow developers to really experiment on learning instances. As they would update those learning instances, multiple versions would get created. You can compare the extraction results across those versions, right? So, for example, like say I start out with a non-Gen AI LI, then in the next version, I apply Gen AI. I can then compare across those versions and see really what the extraction outcomes on Gen AI extraction versus non-Gen AI extraction is. I mean, there are tremendous amount of possibilities, but the idea here is to allow developers the flexibility to experiment and really compare results and choose the one that really makes most sense, right? So yeah, with that, I think I would take a pause here and I'll look up your questions on the chat. I'll respond to them and I'll hand it over to my colleague next to hand it. Nishi, I think you're on.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
Mudit. I'll share my screen. Yeah, if you can stop sharing, Mudit. All right. Well, here we go. Hello, everyone. I'm Nishikant, part of the product management, director of product management, and all excited here to walk you through the cool innovations of 2024. So we have seen something cool from Mudit as well as Jason. And the next topic that I'm going to cover is also going to be something that is infused with generative AI. So in fact, in the next few minutes, I'll show you how generative AI has been used to elevate the developer experience or the developer productivity to a whole new level. So in today's session, we'll do a deep dive on using generative AI to build resilient automations at a faster pace. And the need for this technology is driven by several challenges that our COEs face today. So it ranges from limited development resources to time it takes to create the opportunities and the pipeline, and to the cost it takes to build these automations. And this is why we have introduced Automator AI that goes across the automation lifecycle to accelerate the discovery from months to weeks, helps you build automations faster by at least 30%, and make your automations resilient by at least 50% and mitigate any impact to your business outcomes. Automator AI is powered by our native LLMs that are built using a rich metadata from 300 million automations. And let's double click into each of them. Well, the first one is autopilot, which basically brings down the time that you spend in identifying the opportunities and converting them into your automation. So autopilot basically brings down the whole discovery phase from months to weeks, and that is possible because it's able to take your documents either in the form of BPMN. So let's say you have your automation requirements in form of a BPMN diagram, or if you have in-app tool like process discovery, then you can also use the process design document as an input and use autopilot to leverage them and generate the outline of multiple automations, right? So what it does is basically reads these documents and creates an outline of your automation and gives you a starting point to create or basically add more functionality into the automations. Now, once you have the outline of automations, naturally the next step is where you would want to build on top of it by adding more functionality for automation. And for that, we have generative AI powered Copilot for automators. Now, what this does is basically it lets you to give your automation goals in the form of natural language, basically prompts, and lets you create the automation in a jiffy. Basically, it creates all the lines of code based on the prompts or the instructions that you've given and reduces the time by a significant margin. So today it takes most of the I would not say most, but all the out of the box packages into consideration and generates the automations. So we do plan to bring in support for recorder based actions also in the future. And once you have built these automations, obviously the next step is where you push them into the production. But this is where you also face your next set of challenges. Particularly if you have UI based automations, I'm sure most of you would agree that you do face challenges in terms of these UI automations failing because the underlying applications change. So be it any SaaS application or other web applications like Salesforce, ServiceNow, definitely you may have faced challenges where these automations fail because the underlying application UI has changed. And that is exactly where the generative recorder comes into picture. It identifies the point of failure in your automation, and not just that, it also helps you auto recover from that point of failure. It uses generative AI to identify the changes, also propose the changes that you may want to take a look at, or self heal based on the configuration that you have set. And all of this, we will see them in action. And let me just switch the screens, and we'll see all of these use cases or applications in live. All right. I hope you can see my screen. All right. So the use case that we are going to take for our demo is order to cash. And I'm sure most of you would agree that for any large automation like order to cash, it takes a lot of coordination between different teams. And not just that, it also takes time for you to build multiple automations and bring them together, right? However, with autopilot, as I said, you can take the BPM diagram. So in this case, we have order management BPM diagram. And as a developer, if you have the right permissions, you'll be able to use this BPM diagram and generate the automation. I click this option, and as you see, it has already started generating the automations. So it generates all the different types of automations like task bots wherever necessary, and also the process. So process is where it basically takes your diagram and converts that into the process automation. Yeah. So as you see here, it has taken the BPM diagram and converted that into a complete workflow of this order management process. Here you have conditions wherever necessary based on what you have defined, also different automations like bot tasks or any approvals if you had defined in your workflow. Now, here, as I said, the natural step for you would be to take one of these automations and start building on top of it and add additional functionality. So let us do that. So I'm just going to take this. So let me open this taskbot. So while this opens, I'll just quickly recap on what I said about automation copilot for automators, right? So in this case, if you see, it has already created all the outline that we would need for any developer to get started. Right. So in this case, it has all the comments, all the other best practices such as exceptional handling, and wherever necessary, it will also have the right amount of logging. And the more amount of information that you would have in a BPM diagram, the better output or the outline that it creates for any automation. So in this case, it has all these placeholders. So what I'll do is I'll make use of Copilot. It is an in-app assistant in the editor where I can give the instructions in form of natural language. So I'll just copy a sample instruction. Yeah. So here it is where I've given an instruction to connect to Salesforce, read orders from an Excel sheet, and update each record from that in the Salesforce. And also mentioning that if an error occurs at any point of time, send an email to the admin user. Now, what this does in the background is basically reads this instruction, breaks that into multiple chunks, converts them into prompt, and grounds that information based on the uh, packages that the developer has access to, and builds the automation. So in this case, if you see, it also says that, okay, it has added lines at the specific line numbers. So it keeps it very transparent for you and also takes the feedback from you. So in this case, based on the instruction, it has created the necessary actions, and you can keep making changes on top of it as you deem fit, right? So as you see here, it brings down the time significantly. And even in cases, let's say if you have a citizen developer or inexperienced developer where they're not very sure if they have built the right flow, and if they need any help to find out if there are any actions that could be missing or anything to do with the best practices based actions, they can always make use of another capability called suggest next actions, which also makes use of generative AI and gives you suggestions contextually. So based on the context of the automation, it gives you the suggestions on what could be the best set of actions that you can add after that particular node. So in this case, it knows that, okay, I had opened an Excel sheet, so definitely I would want to close that. So it identifies, okay, this is a natural action that you can add. And if I'm not very happy with the suggestions, I can always regenerate and see if there is any suggestion that makes sense. So in this case, definitely close is a right action. So I can always add them here, right? Now, this is how you can basically keep building on top of the outline that the autopilot has created using Copilot for automators. Now, once this is done, typically the step is where you build on top of this, and then once you have tested, you push them into the production. And that is when you start facing the other set of challenges, as I said, particularly with the UI-based automations, where they fail most of the times because there are application changes for which you have automated. So here we have a sample automation. So in this case, I'm going to open a Salesforce application and see how it's going to fail. So first, I will show you how we have not enabled the AI-based fallback mechanisms. As you see here, I'm going to deselect it. So which means there is no AI-based fallback here. And I'll run this. So while this is running, the first step it would typically do is log in into the Salesforce application and try to execute the set of steps that we have configured in the automation. All right, so it has started executing. So you see this new window that has opened the Salesforce application. It would log in into the application. And just to remind you, in this particular step, we have not enabled the generative AI fallback mechanism. So which means we expect this to fail because it's not going to find all the necessary elements that you may have defined while designing the automation. So it has logged into the Salesforce application, and it's going to try finding the specific nodes or elements that you may have defined in the taskbar. Yeah. So as expected, it has found some application changes and it's not able to run the automation, right? So what we'll do now is, I'll first log out. All right. So let's go back to the automation, and at this point of time, we'll enable the generative AI-based fallback. Okay. All right. So let's run this automation again. And at this point of time, we expect the generative recorder to identify the exact point of failure based on the application changes. And not just that, also suggest us on what could be the alternative path that we could use and reconfigure it. So here we go. The automation has started running, following the same steps. All right, log into the application. Now let's see if it's able to identify the changes and also notify it to me. All right, taking a few more seconds. Awesome. So here you see it has identified that there is a change in the application. And the best part is it's also saying you where exactly it has failed, what was the domex path because of which it failed. And the best part is it also says what can be the new domex path. So I can either say, okay, let it continue to run so that it basically makes the change during the runtime and continues the automation, or I can stop the automation. I may want to take a look at the automation and fix as per the suggestions. Now, since this is in a developer mode, I'm able to see this pop-up window and get the instruction. However, in a production scenario, based on the configuration, it can identify the point of failure and auto heal, basically auto fix that particular change and continue the automation. So you needn't even actually face the failures. But yes, it will still notify you that, okay, it had made these changes, and you can always take a look at what changes it had made. And if you would want to redo or relook at the changes, test it, you can take it forward. All right. So here we have the automation, which actually was able to find the changes and also auto heal and take it forward. Well, so let me just go back to the slides now that we have covered all the three features. Just a moment. All right. All right. Yeah, so here's a quick recap of what we have just seen, right? So we saw a user-centric design at play where we were able to create a seamless flow of automation. And we could see that generative AI first approach was used to cut down the discovery phase from months to weeks to days. And also we could actually improve the developer productivity by at least 30%. And the best part is we could actually make these automations more resilient by at least 50% and save the time for COE and also any other operational overhead that they may have and drive the TCO down. So I would like to end by emphasizing that all of this makes Automator AI a highly differentiated capability that can be used to accelerate your automation development. With that, I will hand it over to my next colleague, Vinit Pujari. Over to you, Vinit.
Hey, thank you, Nishi. Excellent demo. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I'm going to start with slides as well, just to honor the tradition. So here's my slide. Yeah. All right. Today I'm going to talk about two things, team. I'm going to talk about API tasks, and I'm going to talk about connector builder. My name is Vinit Pujari. I'm a product manager, and I my focus is API-based automation, integrations, and everything surrounding these aspects. Coming to API tasks, imagine you don't have to connect a bot runner to your control room in order to run an automation. How would life be without bot runners? I'm sure life would be a little complicated because bot runners are needed for those critical data intensive and securely processing automations. But for those automations which are compatible to run on cloud, API tasks are the runtime engines for such automations. Now, API tasks, think of them as automation as a service. These API tasks run on cloud, which is hosted and managed by Automation Anywhere. Now, what's the difference? The difference being you don't have to connect a bot runner machine to the control room to run API tasks. You don't have to patch those VMs. You don't have to maintain those VMs. You don't have to employ resources to take care of those VMs, right? So that's the power of API tasks. These are cloud runtime environments for your automations. And I'll give you a couple of examples wherein API tasks can be really handy, especially in the agentic automation, where API tasks can give you real low latency speeds, as well as they can be called from any external system as well. You don't have to call from Automation Anywhere. You can call API tasks purely as endpoints. Now, I told you that API tasks can purely run in cloud. They can easily integrate with any application that has a service to it, through an API or a web service. And then API tasks do not need on-prem infrastructure. Again, like we maintain the cloud infrastructure for API tasks, we as in Automation Anywhere. And then you can plug in API tasks in forms, right? And these are Copilot forms. You can have a human user do some action on these forms, and then without having to close and reopen the form, you can have the API task surface data right to the human user. Wouldn't that be cool? So we'll see a demo of that as well. But this is a quick snapshot of what API tasks are. The takeaway from this slide is API tasks are cloud runtime environments for you. And then these are great for scenarios where a human user is interacting on a form and they want to do an automation. The automation runs in the background, surfaces data back to the human user in real time, as well as they can do asynchronous processing. Any modern application that has APIs, API tasks can connect to it, do the automation without having to rely on some of the less resilient automations like UI-based automation. With that, I'll go to the next slide here. Just like bots, you can schedule API tasks, and just like bots, you can also run API tasks using the Run Now feature, right? And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to quickly jump to the control room, show you how API tasks can be created, and then I'm going to also do a demo in which I'm going to show you how API tasks can be used by enterprises to fight financial fraud, right? Now, I'm in the control room here. I'm in my private repository. How I create API task is very simple. I go to create and I click API task. And then I say, imagine I want to create an API task to update a record in Salesforce, right? So let me say update Salesforce, and then I say create. And what I do here is I have access to all of these packages that you're familiar with. All of your modern packages like Salesforce, Workday, ServiceNow, Microsoft Suite, Google Suite, etc. You also have access to various other packages like your programming constructs like loop package, the database package, JSON, XML, etc. to actually manipulate the data that is going in and coming out of these API tasks. So the way to build API tasks is super simple. If you've ever built a bot, you will have no problems building an API task. Right? So that's how you build an API task. Just drag and drop, configure them, and save them. And when you want to run the API task, after you've checked in the API task, you can either run it or you can schedule it. Right? I can go to schedule. I can simply find my API task. I have an API task here called cache analyst agent. I can simply select it. And then, as you can see, I don't need to select any runner machine here. And this is because there's no on-prem infrastructure needed to maintain for API tasks, right? So that's the reason why you don't need to select an on-prem machine here. The API task executes on cloud. And as you can see, we use a run as user called API task runner. So this API task runner user is a system user that has permissions to read the API task file from your repository. So that is how you can create API tasks, schedule them, and run them. At this time, I'd like to quickly show a poll to get your thoughts. I'd like to understand your understanding of API tasks. So Shreya, if you can flash the poll at this point, that'll be great. So the question is, only one of the following statements is true in the context of API tasks. And please select one of these options. The first option is, I would need to buy the API task license in order to try it. Second is, I would need to buy the enterprise license to try it. Or I can try it today in my cloud control room for free. So which one of these options do you think is correct? Guess the answers are coming in. We'll give 5 more seconds to gather the answers, and then we'll flash the results. And I'm going to reveal the answer as well, so stay tuned. All right, let's see the answers. Okay, I don't see the answers, but I hope most of you selected the third option, which is you can try API tasks in your cloud control rooms today for free. You don't have to buy any kind of license to try API tasks. If your control room is hosted on cloud, you will have access to create API tasks. You will have access to run them, and you can actually realize the value of API tasks before you make a purchasing decision whether you should buy it or not. Right? So I encourage all of you to go ahead and try API tasks today, create some cool examples, and share what you build with us in the Pathfinder community. All right. What I'll do now is I'll quickly talk about a demo, right? Now, in this demo, what we're going to show is we're going to show how you can fight financial fraud, how companies like, any company that's involved in processing payments, or if you're a bank, or if you're involved in any kind of customer verification and fraud screening, this use case is relevant. Now, what we are doing here is I'm going to show a combination of different components of our Automation Anywhere platform, and using all those combinations, I'm going to show you this demo. Now, what you see here is a fictitious company called FlexPay. Now, FlexPay is involved in peer-to-peer payments. They process a large number of payments every day. These payments could be done by any sender and any receiver. The main thing that FlexPay wants to ensure is none of these payments are related to terrorist financing. None of those payments are fraudulent, and none of those payments are related to any kind of threat or any policy violation for FlexPay, right? Now, what you see here is a page that lists many transactions. I'll talk about two phases. Phase one was the past, and phase two is the current phase. In the past, I, as a finance analyst, I did not have a way to look at prioritize my transactions. Like when I start my day, I would have to pick one of these transactions randomly based on the amount that's displayed, and then I would go ahead and search who's the sender, who's the beneficiary, what is the reason for the payment, and has the sender submitted enough documents for us to make sure we can validate them or onboard them on our portal. And it used to take me about, let's say, minimum of 20 minutes per transaction. And there's hundreds and thousands of such transactions, and I have about 40 other colleagues of mine who are doing the same thing every day, right? Imagine we are always playing a catch up with the new transactions that are coming in. So now the previous process was completely manual. I would look up the sender and the receiver on internet using Google search or Bing search, and then I would have to come into my one of my internal portals to verify the onboarding documents that the senders have submitted to me, right? And if it's a first time sender, then it's a completely different ball game. I have to create a ticket, reach out to the sender, make sure they give us all the KYC documents, know your customer documents, before I can ultimately approve the transaction, reject it, or put it on hold. Because every transaction needs one of these decisions: approve, reject, or hold. Now, after we changed this process, after we automated this process with AI and Automation Anywhere's platform, we magically changed this entire manual process into a couple of seconds. It takes a couple of seconds for most of these transactions, which are like straight through processing. And then for those transactions which need additional verification, I bring in the automation automatically brings that transaction to my attention and gives me a summary of all the details that I need in order for me to make a decision of approval or rejection or hold, right? Let me show you how this is done. Now, you see a prioritized list of transactions already. This is because there is an AI agent in the back end which is constantly looking at new transactions, watching their total currency amount, watching which currency code have they been sent in, and then they're looking at it is also looking at the sender and the receiver information, and then it is constantly flagging or processing that transaction. And whenever it flags, it also flags the reason. So for example, the first transaction here has been flagged because the sender is a first time sender. And the second transaction has been flagged because the transaction value exceeds 1 million GBP, right? Now, let me go ahead and open the second transaction here. And what happens is, on the left, you see the transaction details, which is pertaining to the FlexPay portal. But on the right, you see something loading, right? That is the Automation Copilot. This is the Automation Copilot widget that has been embedded as an iframe in this portal, right? This is a portal which is no way connected to Automation Anywhere, right? But we use the Automation Copilot's magic to automatically embed in this website, and then we show all of the automations that the business user, me, the finance analyst, has access to, right? If you see here, I have access to this anti-money laundering and fraud prevention process. Now, all that I need to do is I will kickstart this process, and the Copilot widget automatically copies over the transaction details from the website onto the Copilot form, and then I submit it. And then remember I told you about how I used to do manual Google search about the sender and the receiver? Guess what? That activity has been converted to an AI agent, which is trained with our AI agent studio, which has been trained with fine-tuned with a prompt that does Google search and then brings about a summary of the sender and the receiver and some of their whereabouts. Like, have they been involved in these transactions earlier? Have they been involved in any kind of fraudulent list, etc.? Now, the AI agent has processed that step. The level 1 screening is complete. And this is the summary it has created. It says, level 1 screening score is 95, proceed to level 2. Now, what it did was, it did an open search research about these senders and receiver parties. It has screened them successfully, and it has also screened the industry and confirmed good. What it means is, as a company, FlexPay supports only a couple of domains, couple of industries. We do not support, crypto, for example. So the AI agent has made sure that this transaction adheres to all of those policy guidelines. Now, I also have additional information here if I needed to look at it. But right now, what I'll do is I will do the second level screening, which is I will do the KYC check. Now, what happens here is Another AI agent is kicked off. It is trained, it is grounded with the enterprise RAG knowledge of FlexPay, which is nothing but the customers would have submitted their onboarding documents to FlexPay. Those documents have been uploaded to our enterprise RAG knowledge base, and the AI agent has been trained on that knowledge base. Basically, it checks whether the sender's KYC information is current or is it expired, and it also checks if the sender is in some kind of a dodgy client list, right? So it has done that already, and it has come back with a score which is 50, and it doesn't look like it's a good score, which is why it says start a KYC refresh process, right? Imagine all of this is happening, and I just have to do a point and click, right? All the grunt work is being done by my AI agents, and I get to be the boss of these AI agents and I've been equipped with all of the information in a precise summary that allows me to take decisions in a fraction of seconds, right? Now, since the screening score is 50, I must hold this transaction, right? Because I need to initiate a KYC refresh process. I need to ask the sender to submit additional documents. Now, previously, what I used to do was I used to switch or toggle to a ticketing application like ServiceNow or Zendesk, and I used to manually copy paste all of the information from FlexPay onto the ServiceNow or the Zendesk platform. But now I don't have to do that. Just based on the click of a button, the ServiceNow ticket will be created with all of these information inside the ticket, right? And then once I proceed, it also drafts a summary email for the customer, and it sends an email to the sender in this case, and the sender then gets notification that they need to submit so and so documents, and post which I can make a decision whether to approve it or reject it. All right. So what we saw here was how AI agents are assisting human users to make decisions faster and to make data-driven decisions. Now, I showed this entire process as driven by a human, right? As a human, I started the process, I went through various steps, etc. But this is just a human oversight. Companies who are beginning their journey with AI and agentic orchestration, they can start every process with a human oversight, but they don't have to do that. They can, make these transactions frictionless once they have a confidence of that their AI agents are doing the right thing over a period of time, right? So most of these transactions can be straight through processed. I don't have to be engaged in most of these transactions that we are seeing here. And then I can be pulled into the loop only when there's something that's really critical. Like first time senders, there's no reason why, unless they are in some kind of a dodgy list, there's no reason why finance analyst should be involved in the loop. So this will be automatically processed the next time when we allow the AI agent to do completely autonomous processing, right? Yeah, so that's how you can use a combination of AI agents that are created using our AI studio, like Jason mentioned. You can fine tune them using our prompt tuning, and then you can also use enterprise RAG models to ground these AI agents to reduce hallucinations and to actually make the responses more contextual to your enterprise data rather than open source data. All right. So I'd like to take a quick pause here. I'd like to also, I'll definitely answer some of the questions that have been put in the chat. But before I go to the next one, which is the connector builder, I'd like Shreya to bring up another poll so that you guys get to understand how you can build connector packages in minutes. And again, this question has 4 options, out of which only one of them is true. And please go ahead and select one of these options.
Vineet, sorry to interrupt. We are actually over time, so you may want to cut short your session by a little as soon as possible, please.
Sure, Arjun. Yeah. So this question has 4 answers, which is connector packages cannot be downloaded. Connector packages can be used only in bot tasks. They can only be used in API tasks, or they can be used in both bot and API tasks. So the right answer is the last one. Connector packages can be used in both bot and API tasks, and you can also download them independent of a bot or an API task. Now, just to give you a one-line summary of Connector Builder, it is a way for you to build connector packages quicker, faster, and in a very easy manner. And then since we are out of time today, maybe we'll find time next time to give you a cool demo of Connector Builder. But this tool will solve all of your integration problems. You can build connectors in a matter of minutes. But yeah, we'll do that next time. Thank you all so much. And Arjun, back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Vineet, for that. And sorry, we had to interrupt in between just because of the timing concerns. Yeah, Bill, for the connector builder, we have some cool demos recorded on Automation Anywhere University. So we'll share you the links for all of them. That way you will still have a chance to take a look at them and also practice building those cool connectors as well. Okay, next, we would like to speak about the Pathfinder Summit, which is coming up in January. And for that, I would like to introduce Shreya. She's our technical community manager. Shreya, can you take it from here?
Thank you, Arjun. Hey, everybody. I am the new technical community manager. And in January, I will be completing 3 months at Automation Anywhere. But that is not the only cool thing that's going to happen in January. We also have our Pathfinder Summit that's going to be hosted from 21st to the 23rd of January. And it's a global virtual event. And if you're in the automation space, you do not want to miss this event. I mean, you can expect sessions which will not only upskill you, but also like you can use those learnings to like scale automation in your organization. Also, it's a great way to meet like-minded people and experts and get new ideas and get inspired. And by the end of it, you're gonna have so much inspiration that you can tackle any and every AI and automation goals in 2025. And I bet you're asking, how do I sign up for this? That's pretty easy. You just go to the link that Arjun has dropped in the chat and register there, and we will send you your ticket shortly. And share this with as many people who are enthusiastic about automation and AI as you can. And I hope to see you there at the summit. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Shreya, for that. And also, like Mudit spoke about like document automation. I know a lot of you wanted to learn about how document automation. So we also have like a document automation masterclass learning trail. I mean, the skill booster. And here is the content for you if you'd like to take a look at that. And as always, we always like to get your feedback on how the session was. So instead of just taking it in one of the internal links, we have posted about this event and we would like to get your feedback on this link. So if you could just take like 30 seconds to a minute and drop a few lines on how the session was, that will help us understand if you like the session, and it will also inform a lot of the developers who are also in your network as well. So that way we want to reach more people and we need your help in doing that as well. And so thanks a lot for all the speakers for sharing their insights about the cool features which we launched in 2024. And we have a lot more exciting things coming up in 2025. And we will continue to have these monthly meetup sessions. So that way you are always up to the speed on what we are developing and launching for you. I hope this session for useful for all of you. We can stay for 1 or 2 more minutes in case if you have any questions. Please feel free to put it in the chat window, and all our expert product managers are here and they'll be more than happy to take those questions. And there's a question from Samantha, where is this summit hosted? So this is a totally virtual session. So you get to attend from the comfort of your home or wherever you are joining from. All the speakers, like if you have anything to say as the last words before we wrap up, feel free to do that as well.
We can continue the conversations on our Pathfinder community. So apologies, we ran over time today, but we'll do a better job next time.
Thank you, Aneet. Okay, I think I hope you had a chance to share some feedback on the LinkedIn post as well. Anything else, Shreya, you want to add on?
Yes. Please continue the conversation on Pathfinder, as Vineet said.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining, and have a good, wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, and take care. Bye.
Yes,
We
guys.
will mail the recordings to all of you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.